A few months ago, a $1 billion company stole my art for a t-shirt. Then, their lawyers sent me a letter demanding I pay them seven figures for infringing on their brand. They thought a cease and desist would scare me. They didn't realize they just gave me the inspiration for my most popular collection yet. My name is Maya, and for the last 10 years, I've poured my blood, sweat, and a frankly unhealthy amount of ink into my tattoo shop, the Gilded Quill. It's not just a business, it's my sanctuary, my canvas, and the only thing I've ever built that feels truly mine. I specialize in a style I call botanical noir, intricate, flowing designs of flora and fauna with a dark, almost melancholic twist. Think Audrey Hepburn's elegance meets Tim Burton's aesthetic. My Instagram following isn't massive, but it's loyal. These are people who get my art, who wear it on their skin for life. The day it all started was a Tuesday. I was sketching a new flash sheet, a series of intertwined moon moths and night-blooming jasmine, when my phone started buzzing off the hook. It was a torrent of DMs, all with screenshots of the same thing, a bland, mass-produced t-shirt from Alpha Wear. Alpha Wear, the soulless behemoth of fast fashion, known for pumping out 50 new micro-trends a week, most of which end up in a landfill a month later. And there, emblazoned on a cheap cotton blend, was my moon moth. Not an interpretation. Not an homage. My exact design, pixel for pixel, ripped directly from a high-res photo I'd posted of a client's back piece. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of disbelief and white-hot rage. They hadn't even bothered to change a single line. The delicate veining on the wings, the subtle curve of the antennae, the precise placement of the jasmine blossoms, it was all there. A piece I had spent over 20 hours designing and another 8 tattooing was now being sold for $12.99, probably made in a sweatshop by someone paid pennies. I spent the rest of the day in a fugue state, drafting an email with shaking hands. I kept it professional, attaching screenshots of my original post, dated a year prior, next to their product listing. I am the original creator of this artwork, I wrote. Please remove this item from your store immediately, as it constitutes a clear infringement of my copyright. I hit send, naively thinking that would be the end of it. Maybe an apology, a token gesture. How wrong I was. 2 weeks passed with nothing but radio silence. The t-shirt was still for sale, and now it was even featured on their homepage. My followers were incensed, flooding Alpha Wear's social media with comments, tagging me, demanding they credit the artist. They were a small but mighty army, and for a moment, I felt a surge of hope. Then the package arrived. It wasn't an apology. It was a thick, cream-colored envelope delivered by a courier, feeling heavier than it should. Inside, on letterhead so crisp it could cut glass, was a formal cease and desist. But it wasn't for them. It was for me. The legalese was dense, a thicket of jargon designed to intimidate, but the message was brutally clear. Alpha Wear, represented by the prestigious law firm of Sharp, Blackwood and Kane, accused me of copyright infringement. They claimed their in-house design team had independently created the lunar moth motif and had filed for a trademark on it. My use of the design, they alleged, was a deliberate attempt to profit from their brand identity. The letter demanded I immediately cease using the design in any capacity, my portfolio, my social media, and on any future clients. I was to scrub it from my existence. And then came the gut punch. For the damages I had caused their billion-dollar brand, they were demanding a settlement of $1.5 million. I laughed. A hollow, broken sound that echoed in my silent studio. It was the laugh of someone pushed so far past the edge of reason that the only possible response was hysteria. They stole my art, plastered it on a t-shirt, and were now suing me for the privilege. It was a corporate gaslighting of the highest order. The letter was signed by a MS. Evelyn Sharp, senior partner. I googled her. The first image was a professionally shot portrait of a woman in her 40s with severe, dark hair pulled back into a tight bun, eyes that looked like they could freeze lava, and a smile that didn't reach them. Her bio was a laundry list of victories for corporate giants against frivolous claims from small entities. She was a shark, and I was the chum in the water. My first call was to a pro bono legal aid clinic. A kind but overworked lawyer named Ben listened patiently to my story. He sighed, a sound I would come to learn was common in these conversations. Maya, he said gently, this is a classic slap suit. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. They don't expect to win. They expect to bankrupt you. They have unlimited resources. They can file motions, appeals, delays you'll be buried in legal fees before you ever see a courtroom. The $1,500,000 is just scare tactics. They want you to sign away your rights and shut up. So I should just let them? I asked, my voice cracking. Let them steal my work and then erase my connection to it? I'm not saying it's fair, Ben said, his voice full of genuine regret. I'm saying it's the reality of the system. Your best bet is to take down the posts, sign their papers, and move on. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's better than losing your shop. I hung up the phone, the silence of my studio pressing in on me. Surrender. Let them win. The thought was like acid in my stomach. Every tattoo I'd ever done was a collaboration, a piece of my soul bonded with a piece of someone else's story. That moon moth wasn't just a drawing, it was a memorial piece for a client whose mother had passed away. It was a symbol of transformation, of finding light in darkness. And now, this soulless corporation was trying to strip it of all meaning, to turn it into another disposable commodity. I looked around my studio. At the sketches pinned to the walls, the rows of brightly colored inks, the steady hum of the autoclave. This was my life's work. If I backed down now, what was to stop them from coming for the next design? And the next? I'd be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my career, afraid to create anything that might catch the eye of another corporate vulture. No, I wouldn't surrender. I couldn't afford a lawyer to fight them head on. That much was true. Ben was right about that. But what if I didn't fight them in their arena? What if I fought them in mine? An idea sparked in my mind, small and defiant. They sent me a cease and desist. They wanted to weaponize the law against my art. So be it. I would turn their weapon into my art. That night, I didn't sleep. Fueled by cheap coffee and righteous fury, I started sketching. I took the cold, sterile language of their legal threat and I twisted it. I drew the words cease and desist in a beautiful, flowing Gothic script wrapped in thorny vines and withered roses. I designed a new moth, but this one's wings were made of shredded legal documents, its body a fountain pen dripping ink black blood. The tagline, they tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. The next morning, I posted the design on my Instagram. I didn't just post the art, I posted the whole story. I screenshotted the letter from AlphaWare with sensitive info redacted, shared the picture of their stolen t-shirt, and laid out the whole absurd, infuriating situation. I was terrified, my thumb hovering over the share button for a full minute. This was it. No going back. I was publicly poking the bear. A very, very large, very rich bear with a team of very expensive lawyers. I hit share, and then my world exploded. The post went viral in a way none of my art ever had. It was shared by other artists, by fashion bloggers who hated fast fashion, by legal watchdogs, by regular people who were just sick and tired of seeing corporate bullies win. The story resonated. It was the classic David vs. Goliath tale playing out in real time on their social media feeds. My follower count, which had hovered around 50K for years, doubled overnight. Then it tripled. The comments were a flood of support. This is insane. We've got your back. Alpha Wear is trash. I'm never shopping there again. That C&D design is fire. You should put it on a shirt. That last comment, and hundreds like it, was the one that stuck. Fight fire with fire. Use their tactics against them. I found a local, union-run print-on-demand shop. I uploaded the cease and desist design. I put it on t-shirts, hoodies, and tote bags. I opened a small online store linked to my Instagram and posted a simple message. Every purchase funds my legal defense. Let's show Alpha Wear what a real brand looks like. The first batch sold out in an hour. My little tattoo shop turned into a makeshift fulfillment center overnight. Friends came over to help me pack orders, fueled by pizza and a shared sense of rebellion. My phone was a constant stream of notifications, sales, DMs of support, emails from journalists. A GoFundMe started by one of my followers was gaining traction, with people donating whatever they could spare $5, $10, $20 each donation, a small vote of confidence. Of course, Alpha Wear didn't take this lying down. A week later, another courier arrived, this time with a much thicker packet. It was an official lawsuit filing. They were taking me to court. And they had a new complaint: trademark dilution and parody law violation. They were coming after my new designs. They claimed my cease and desist merchandise was a direct and malicious parody intended to harm their brand. Attached was a letter from MS. Sharp herself. It was colder, more venomous than the first. MS. Torres, it began, you have mistaken a gesture of professional courtesy for a sign of weakness. Your viral campaign is a childish tantrum that will accomplish nothing but your own financial ruin. We will see you in court. And we will win. We always do. Reading it, I felt a tremor of fear. This was real. Courtrooms, judges, depositions. But then, looking at the boxes of merchandise stacked high in my studio, at the messages of support pouring in from around the world, the fear was eclipsed by a stubborn resolve. She called it a childish tantrum. I called it my war paint. The legal battle was a grueling marathon. Ben, the pro bono lawyer, was a saint. He connected me with an intellectual property specialist, a fiery woman named Maria who was willing to take my case on a contingency basis after seeing the public outcry. They've overplayed their hand, she told me during our first meeting, her eyes gleaming. Their initial claim was weak, but going after your parody art, that's a gift. Maria explained that parody is a protected form of free speech, but it's a tricky area of law. Alpha Wear's lawyers were arguing that my work wasn't true parody because it was commercial. We were arguing that the commercial aspect was essential. It was the very thing funding my ability to fight their baseless suit. The discovery process was a nightmare. They demanded years of my financial records, my client lists, my private communications. It was a clear intimidation tactic, designed to overwhelm and exhaust me. MS. Sharp was as ruthless as her photo suggested. In our one and only deposition, conducted over Zoom, she was a master of condescension. So, Miss Torres, she began, her voice dripping with disdain, you consider yourself an artist? I am an artist, I replied, my voice steady despite the frantic beating of my heart. And you believe that scribbling on people for a living gives you the right to slander a reputable, multi-billion-dollar corporation? I believe that creating original work gives me the right to not have it stolen, I shot back. And I believe I have the right to speak out when a reputable, multi-billion-dollar corporation tries to bully me into silence for calling them out on it. Her mask of cool professionalism slipped for a fraction of a second. A flicker of annoyance in her eyes. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. Meanwhile, the campaign was my full-time job. I kept creating. Each new legal threat from Alpha Wear became a new design. Their motion to dismiss became a t-shirt, motion denied with a drawing of a gavel smashing a corporate logo. Their request for my private emails became a tote bag. You've got mail and a lawsuit. My community ate it up. They weren't just buying merchandise, they were buying into the story. They were part of the resistance. We were David, and we were slinging a whole lot of stones. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A late night doom scroll led me down a rabbit hole of intellectual property law blogs. I started researching AlphaWare's legal history, digging through public court records. And I found a pattern. Over the past decade, AlphaWare had filed over 200 similar lawsuits. They targeted small artists, independent designers, Etsy sellers. The pattern was always the same. They'd find a design they liked, copy it, slap a trademark application on it, and then sue the original creator into oblivion. Most, like me, couldn't afford to fight. They settled, signed NDAs, and handed over the rights to their own work for pennies on the dollar, or for nothing at all. They weren't just protecting their brand, they were actively acquiring intellectual property through legal intimidation. They were, in the parlance of the legal blogs I was reading, trademark trolls. But it was one specific case that made my breath catch in my throat. A case from 5 years prior against a small textile designer in the UK. AlphaWare had claimed ownership of a simple, geometric floral pattern. The designer fought back, but eventually ran out of money and had to fold. But in the initial court filings, her lawyer had submitted a crucial piece of evidence, a design patent from the 1970s for an almost identical pattern, long since expired and in the public domain. AlphaWare's claim to originality was a lie. They had knowingly tried to trademark a public domain design to sue a small creator. My hands were shaking as I sent the files to Maria. Is this what I think it is? Her email response came back within minutes, all in caps. Maya, you beautiful, brilliant bastard. This is the smoking gun. Maria explained that this was evidence of a pattern of fraudulent and vexatious litigation. It showed that AlphaWare acted in bad faith, not to protect legitimate trademarks, but to stifle competition and acquire art they were too creatively bankrupt to come up with on their own. This one case, this forgotten piece of legal history, could unravel their entire strategy. Armed with this new evidence, Maria filed a motion for summary judgment arguing that AlphaWare's case against me was baseless and part of a larger, malicious scheme. We also included a request for sanctions against them for filing a frivolous lawsuit. The day of the hearing, I felt strangely calm. I sat in the back of the sterile courtroom, a small, tattooed figure in a sea of gray and navy suits. MS. Sharp was there, looking as impeccable and merciless as ever. She wouldn't even look at me. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, listened as both sides presented their arguments. AlphaWare's lawyer droned on about brand integrity and commercial harm. Then it was Maria's turn. She didn't just talk about my case. She laid out the entire history. She presented case after case of AlphaWare preying on small artists. And then she presented the evidence from the UK case, showing their prior knowledge of the public domain pattern. Your Honor, Maria concluded, her voice ringing through the quiet courtroom, this is not about protecting a trademark. This is about a multi-billion-dollar corporation using the legal system as a weapon to crush a small artist who had the audacity to ask them to stop stealing her work. It is a perversion of the very purpose of copyright and trademark law. The judge was silent for a long time, looking over the documents. She peered over her glasses, first at AlphaWare's legal team, then at me. MS. Sharp, the judge said, her voice dangerously low. I find this pattern of litigation deeply troubling. The evidence presented suggests that your client has engaged in a practice of filing meritless claims to intimidate and defraud independent artists. This court will not be a party to such tactics. She looked directly at me. MS. Torres, your use of your artwork to protest and fund your defense is a textbook example of protected speech. The motion for summary judgment is granted. This case is dismissed with prejudice. A wave of relief so powerful it almost knocked the wind out of me washed over me. Dismissed with prejudice, meaning they could never, ever bring this case against me again. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, she continued, her gaze snapping back to MS. Sharp, the court finds that this lawsuit was brought in bad faith. I am imposing sanctions on AlphaWare and your firm to cover all of MS. Taurus's legal fees. And I am referring this matter to the State Bar for a review of your firm's conduct. MS. Sharp's face, for the first time, was no longer a mask of cold indifference. It was a canvas of pure, unadulterated shock. Her jaw was tight, her perfect composure shattered. We had won. We had completely, utterly, and devastatingly won. The news went viral even faster than the initial post. Tattoo artist beats corporate giant, the headlines screamed. But the story wasn't over. Armed with our victory, Maria reached out to the other artists we'd found in AlphaWare's legal history. Dozens who had been silenced by NDAs were now emboldened. We filed a class action lawsuit against AlphaWare. It's still ongoing, a massive legal leviathan working its way through the courts. But the damage to AlphaWare has been done. Their stock price took a nosedive. Boycotts were organized. They became the poster child for corporate greed and creative theft. They issued a half-hearted apology and fired their entire in-house legal and design departments, including, to my immense satisfaction, MS. Sharp. As for me, the legal defense fund had grown so large that after paying Maria, I had enough left over to not just secure my little shop, but to expand. I started the Gilded Quill Grant, a fund dedicated to providing legal aid for independent artists facing copyright battles they can't afford to fight alone. The Cease and Desist collection is still my bestseller. It's become a symbol of defiance, a badge of honor for creatives everywhere. Sometimes, late at night, when the shop is quiet and the only sound is the buzz of my tattoo machine, I think about that first letter. How heavy it felt, how it was designed to crush me, to make me feel small and powerless. They thought they were writing an ending to my story. But all they did was give me a hell of a beginning. They wanted to silence me, but instead they gave my art a voice louder than I could have ever imagined. And it's a voice that's now helping others learn to shout back. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. We appreciate everyone and can't wait to bring more stories your way.